Arteta is building an army at Arsenal. Declan Rice. Marino.
First time shot, 3-0! What a fantastic finish from Mikel Marino!
Saka.
Kayo Saka!
Saliba. And Martinelli. Arteta isn't just building a team to win the Premier League, he's building an army ready to conquer all of Europe. But how exactly is he doing it? And what are the two key strategies he's using to unlock the full potential of this Arsenal side? Well, let's talk about it. When Arteta was appointed, he wasn't coming to coach the first team. He came in with a vision to completely rebuild Arsenal, not just tactically, but culturally and mentally. He understood that the team had lost its resilience. Arsenal had become fragile in big moments and lacked the character that once defined them. His very first focus wasn't on buying attackers or playing attractive football. It was about building a team that could withstand pressure, bounce back from setbacks, and compete at the highest level, consistently. Arteta knew that without that kind of foundation, nothing else would last, and that's where the real rebuild began. When Arteta started his rebuild, he knew exactly where to begin: the midfield. Because if your midfield is weak, your whole system falls apart. You can't control games, you can't protect your defence, and you can't feed your attack. Arteta understood that if Arsenal were going to compete with the best, they needed a midfield that could do it all: defend, create, dominate possession, and most importantly, handle pressure. So he got to work. The first big piece of the puzzle was Thomas Partey. Arteta saw him as a physical, ball-winning presence who could carry the ball forward. He wanted someone who could break up play and keep things calm when the team was under pressure. And when Partey's fit, you see exactly why he was brought in: strength, discipline, and that ability to shield the back line. But Arteta didn't stop there. He needed a leader. Someone who could control the tempo of the game and be that creative spark.
Saka. Odegaard. Marino! Lovely from Odegaard. Here's Kai Havertz.
That's when Martin Odegaard came in. At first it was a loan move, but Arteta knew this wasn't just a short-term signing. Odegaard had a vision, technical class, and under pressure that Arsenal's midfield had been missing for years. He eventually became the club captain, and honestly, it just made sense. He's the kind of player who sets the tone, not just with the ball, but with his work ethic. Then came Jorginho, a more experienced head, someone who brings control and composure, especially in tight games. He might not be flashy, but Arteta knew the value of having someone who understands positioning and game management at the highest level. And of course, the biggest statement of intent, Declan Rice. That transfer changed everything. Arteta didn't just want Rice because of his talent, he wanted him because Rice was a leader, a player who could play as a defensive anchor but also drive the ball forward with purpose. Rice brought that balance Arsenal had been searching for, strength and elegance combined. His presence elevated the entire team. Arteta knew this midfield would be the engine of everything. Defensively solid, technically sharp, mentally tough. Whether Arsenal were pressing high, holding possession, or digging in during tough away games, he wanted a midfield that could adapt and never get overrun. This was his foundation, and once he got that right, it was time to move to the next phase: the attack. For the attack, Arteta didn't just go on a spending spree, he was smart. His first move? Protect the core. And that core was Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. These two were already showing flashes of brilliance, but Arteta saw more than just raw talent. He saw future superstars, players who could stretch defences, run at defenders, and carry the club on their backs. Instead of overloading their positions, he gave them trust, game time, and responsibility. And look how they've repaid that. Season after season, they've stepped up. Saka became a regular goal contributor and Arsenal's go-to man in big games. Martinelli, unpredictable, explosive and fearless. Together they became a nightmare for fullbacks. But Arteta knew he couldn't rely on just two young wingers all season.
28 minutes or
That's
so.
a lovely ball, and Saka in behind, flies it in wonder. That's how you do it. Brilliant Arsenal football. Perfect pass from Bukayo Saka, and Leandro Trossard scores his second Champions League goal of the season.
That's where Leandro Trossard came in. He wasn't just a backup, he was brought in because of his versatility. Left wing, right wing, even false nine, Trossard could do it all. And the best part? He fits perfectly into Arteta's system. Technically sound, intelligent, and always pressing. And then there's Ethan Nwaneri. Arteta didn't just see him as an academy talent, he saw something rare. Ethan wasn't just another promising youngster, he was the player who made people sit up and take notice. By giving him minutes with the first team at just 15 years old, Arteta sent a message. This kid is part of the future, and now people are comparing him to Messi, not because of the hype, but because of how he moves, how he thinks, and how fearless he looks on the pitch. That's not luck, that's development done right. Arteta's goal with this attack wasn't just about flair, it was about consistency, flexibility, and explosiveness. He wanted players who could play multiple roles, adapt to different game plans, and most importantly, score goals in any situation. With a midfield that could control the game and an attack that could strike from anywhere, Arsenal was starting to look like a serious threat. But Arteta wasn't done, not even close. The defence was next, and he started with the centre-backs, and who was better to start from than William Saliba? Arteta didn't just bring him back for his physicality. Saliba's ability to play out from the back, read the game and stay calm under pressure has transformed Arsenal's defence. Alongside him, Gabriel Magalhaes has been a rock, aggressive, solid in the air and always ready to step up in the big moments. Together they form one of the strongest centre-back pairings in the league. But Arteta didn't stop there. He added Jurrien Timber for versatility, a player who can slot in at centre-back and full-back. His intelligence and composure on the ball fit perfectly into Arteta's system, and his adaptability gives the squad more flexibility. But perhaps one of the most impressive moves Arteta made was integrating Marouane Skelly into the team. The young defender is impressed under Arteta's watch, and despite his age, he's been given real responsibility. Arteta has been careful with his development, but now Marouane is starting to get consistent minutes with the first team. This isn't just about giving him time to grow, it's about Arteta trusting him with the future of this club. And the best part? Marouane Skelly is already being compared to top players, which just goes to show how much potential Arteta sees in him. So when you look at this defence, it's not just about the veterans, it's a mix of experience and youth. Arteta has built a defensive unit that's strong, adaptable and full of players who can handle the pressure in different ways. Now, after all these solid moves in the defence, midfield and attack, Arteta has built something special. But here's the thing. Building a championship-winning team isn't just about bringing in the right players, it's about handling the pressure, the expectations, and the growing pains. The last 3 seasons have been a rollercoaster for Arsenal fans. Arsenal have been in the race for the title year after year, and every time they've been so close, but somehow they've fallen just short, and it's been heartbreaking to watch. Take last season, for example. Arsenal were leading the Premier League for so long, you could feel the excitement. The fans were buzzing. It felt like this might be the year. Then came the injuries, the slip-ups, the mental fatigue, and the team started to fade. And before anyone knew it, Manchester City were right there, taking control. But here's where Arteta's genius comes into play. No one saw what he was building. People saw the results, the heartbreaks, the slips, but they didn't see the foundation he was creating, the sacrifices he was willing to make for long-term success. It's easy to look at the stats and say, they were close, but they couldn't handle the pressure. But the truth is, Arteta wasn't just building a team to compete for the title at the moment, he was creating a team for sustained success. He knew that growing pains were part of the process. He was focused on the bigger picture, even when everyone else was fixated on short-term results. So when Arsenal fell short, it wasn't because Arteta's plan didn't work, it was because the team wasn't quite there yet. They needed a little more maturity and a bit more consistency. They needed more time to grow, and honestly, when you look back at those seasons, you can see the progress. The team got stronger mentally and physically. They started handling pressure better, even when the results didn't go their way. Arteta knew it would take time. He wasn't in it for the quick fix. While everyone saw the near misses, he was working on the deeper structure, building a team that would last. It's like he was willing to take a few heartbreaks now if it meant more success down the line, and that's what we're seeing now, a team that's ready to break through. So the narrative that most people missed was this: it wasn't about the near misses, it was about the foundation that Arteta was laying. People were too focused on the results to see that the real work was happening behind the scenes. The last 3 seasons, they were growing pains, but now it feels like Arsenal is ready to take that next step. This season, and honestly last season, Arsenal has started to show what Arteta was building all along. It's like everything is finally clicking. And you know what? It's not a coincidence. This is what he's been working towards. If you look at how Arsenal's playing now, there's a sense of maturity that wasn't there before. The defence? Solid, reliable. The midfield? Stronger than ever, especially with players like Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard pulling the strings. The attack? Fast, dangerous, unpredictable. And the core of that attack, Saka and Martinelli, is still as lethal as ever. But what stood out this season is the team's ability to manage games. That's something we didn't see in those earlier seasons when Arsenal would falter under pressure. Now, they're not just winning games, they're managing them, and this is down to 2 major changes from Arteta. But before we continue this video, please click the subscribe button. Thank you, and now back to the video on the 2 changes by Arteta. The first is his defensive system. For the past 3 seasons, Arsenal have had one of their best defensive records, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe. There was a point where they actually had the best defensive numbers across all the top 5 leagues. And honestly, that's not just by luck or having good defenders, it's because of the system. Arteta didn't just want defenders who can tackle, he wanted a team that defended as a unit. Every player presses, every player tracks back. It's collective, it's disciplined, it's intense. Arteta built his defensive system on 2 main structures: a good defensive principle and teaching of player roles in defence. Arteta has always believed that every player on the pitch should defend, no matter their role. From the striker to the wingers to the centre-backs, everyone presses, everyone tracks back. There's no passenger. You lose the ball, you fight to win it back immediately. It's why when you watch Arsenal now, you rarely see them scrambling. They defend in waves, and they do it together. A big part of that system is the high press. Arsenal apply an aggressive press the moment they lose the ball, sometimes involving as many as 7 players pushing up in sync. But it's not chaotic pressure, it's smart and coordinated. They know where to funnel the ball, how to trap the opponent and when to pounce. They want teams to panic, and most of the time they do. But even with that high press, they remain compact. The backline stays tight, the midfield closes gaps, and it becomes nearly impossible to play through the middle. When teams try to counter, Arsenal snaps into a 4-1-4-1 shape. One of the holding midfielders, usually Declan Rice or Thomas Partey, drops in just in front of the centre-backs, while the rest of the midfield holds that line ahead. That shape allows them to block off central lanes and force the ball wide. The wingers like Saka and Martinelli aren't just hanging up the pitch, waiting for a counter. They're constantly dropping back to help their fullbacks, which creates a triangle on the flanks between winger, fullback and midfielder. It's a small detail, but it makes it incredibly difficult for the opposition to progress down the wings. Fullbacks like Jurrien Timber and Lewis Skelly have also been important to this system. They don't just sit deep, they jump out to engage the ball carrier quickly, forcing mistakes or slowing attacks before they become dangerous. And while Ben White and even someone like Kivior weren't exactly the foundation of the rebuild, they've still played important roles in key moments. Everything is intentional. When the winger presses from one side, the midfielders shift across, cutting off options. The centre-forward, Jesus or Havertz, also joins in, pressing from the front and helping to lock the ball on one side of the pitch. The idea is to suffocate the play, win the ball back high up and reset with control. You could say Arteta might have over-prioritised defence at some point in the rebuild, and maybe that was true. But now, you can see why. That rock-solid defence structure has kept Arsenal in title races, in Champions League battles, and competing against the very best in Europe. With players like Partey and Declan Rice in front of the back line, the project feels more complete than ever. But the second part of Arteta blueprint is one of the weirdest of all, as it is most times used by mid-table coaches.
Saka takes, Gabriel's in there! Absolutely unstoppable! A force of muscular nature! And Arsenal lead!
Set pieces. Yep, this is where he's outsmarted most of the league. Because while everyone was focusing on open play, Arteta was cooking in the background, turning Arsenal into a set-piece machine. And not in a boring, lump-it-in-the-box kind of way. I mean clever, well-rehearsed routines that make you go, wait, did they just plan that? At one point, Arsenal were getting goals from every angle. Free kicks, corners, even sneaky quick restarts that caught teams sleeping. One week, it's a Rice rocket from 25 yards. The next, a Gabriel bullet header from a corner. It's unpredictable, it's annoying if you're playing against them, but if you're an Arsenal fan, it's a dream. Remember that Arsenal versus Manchester United game? The one that was tight, cagey and full of tension? Yeah, Arsenal won that game 2-0, and both of their goals came from set pieces. It wasn't flashy tiki-taka, it wasn't some 15-pass move, it was smart, calculated chaos from dead balls. That match was the clearest sign that Arteta's plan was working, even in big games. At one point, people started calling them set-piece merchants like it was an insult. But the thing is, those merchants have been cashing in 3 points nearly every week. And honestly, that's exactly what Arteta wanted. He doesn't care how the ball goes in, as long as it hits the back of the net. And when you can't predict how Arsenal are going to score, whether it's a Martinelli run, a Rice header or a slick corner routine, you've got a serious problem on your hands. This unpredictability? It's not luck, it's by design. Arteta didn't just want to build a beautiful team, he wanted to build a team that could beat you in any way, from any situation. And now they're doing just that. And if this team can out-defend Real Madrid, outsmart United, and keep inventing how they score, then here's the question, can they go all the way in the Champions League? And now, this is it. Everything Arteta's been building, the structure, the discipline, the unpredictability, it's all led to this moment. Arsenal are in the Champions League and are almost in the semi-finals. In the first leg, they stunned Real Madrid in front of their fans, and they beat them 3-0. That wasn't just a result, that was a message to the rest of Europe that this Arsenal side isn't here to make up the numbers, they're here to compete, they're here to win. Now the second leg is looming, and sure, it's Real Madrid. They've done some wild things in the Champions League, but if Arsenal can defend that 3-goal lead, stay solid and stay focused, they're in the final. And who's waiting on the other side? PSG or Aston Villa? Two tough teams, no doubt, but Arsenal have already beaten both of them this season. They've proven they can handle them. So now the road is clear. One more performance away from a Champions League final, one more shot at something historic. And honestly, with the way this team is playing, with the confidence, the tactics, the unity, who's to say they can't go all the way? So let me ask you, do you think Arsenal can win the Champions League this season? Because right now, it's starting to feel very real. Well, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as this would help us grow. Thank you, and don't forget to check out our last video.